So, what has your success looked like in terms of COVID cases among the workforce? I mean, I know that some of the factories that open up, like meat packing industry, have just been absolute hotspots of transmission. And so it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see if there was a contrast with somebody who's taking more precaution.
So again, let's say we have 120 people in the building currently. So we've been reopened for I guess a little more than about 8 weeks, and we had two cases where COVID was identified. Both people are certain they caught it on the outside, but they did come into the building, and we sent them home. We sent them home until they could get a test that proved they were negative, and they are back to work. But that was it. They were too early on. We
What month
immediately
was
took
that
the
in?
steps.
Was that last month or March?
It probably late March, early April.
Okay.
I can't remember the actual day we started bringing people back in, but it was probably on or about the 26th of March,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, we had two cases relatively early on. We've had none since. Again, we're checking everybody every day. Um, so we haven't had really any issues at all, except for
Right.
those two little cases where people went home,
Right. And I mean, they're back at this
right,
point. It's interesting.
and they got paid. So
Good to hear.
everybody was happy,
So
kind of.
I'll just open up the floor to anything else you think doctors in particular would be interested in hearing about what this means about the workplace as a transmission site, things of that nature.
Well, so that's an interesting. That's a good feeder. So I have a lot of friends that are doctors, dentists, and they're hammering me to deliver gowns to them, But and I keep asking our FEMA contacts, and they said, until you deliver us a 500,000, you can't sell them to anybody. Have
Yeah.
them call us. But of course, if they call FEMA, they'll sell them any as long as they want 10,000.
Yeah.
But I know all these doctors' offices around here, these friends, and they can't get the stuff. So um,
But you do have that order in with FEMA, don't you?
500,000, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to deliver them to them.
Yeah.
We have, I mean, there's a lot of medical schools locally, and they can't get a hold of gowns. I just find it mind-boggling. But anyway, so the smaller practices, the guys I know, some of them have been trying to test or conduct it outside. And my suggestion to them is just figure out a way to keep people apart. As we've all come to understand, I mean, supply of anything, whether it's technology, parts, or apparel, or PPE, the supply chain has been extended out to 3, 4, 5 tier suppliers. So in the case of, say, a medical mask, you had this nice, everybody has moved to a just-in-time system and an efficient system of operation that works perfectly as everything stays in balance. But the minute something goes out of balance, somewhere in that one of those tiers gets disrupted, they can't react. So all of a sudden you had this enormous demand, but the demand goes all the way back to the point of the chemical companies that are making the fibers. Have they made enough fibers for gowns or for masks? No, because they didn't expect this. And if they can't make the fibers, then the weavers or the knitters can't make the fabrics, and the converters can't convert the fabrics into the usefulness, and then can't get it to the factories that cut it and sew it. And that supply chain has evolved over the years to become a more and more efficient manner. And in you remember the book, The World is Flat.
Hmm.
So the world is flat, and this global economy. But then again, now what it's exposed is weaknesses in this design, which is all about efficiency, but not flexibility.
Right. That long-term thinking.
Right. So as we shift, as the mask business started to dry up from hospitals, I spoke to a lot of the hospitals. They all have strategic procurement officers, and I said, Lordy, I forget the word, but should they put in place, should the hospitals and put in place a backup for their critical supplies that is closer to home, and it's not unlike insurance. So they spend a lot of money for insurance, and you spend a lot of money for redundancy in your IT systems and backups and clouds. Well, why wouldn't you spend a little bit of money for a little bit of insurance to protect in the case that another event like this happens? Pitched it to them, and they all sign it. Yeah. That sounds good, but I can tell they're going right back to the way things were. And anyway, but I think that's something that hospitals and anybody in the medical world should consider is a little bit of insurance on their critical items. And yeah, it's going to cost a little more, but it's no different than paying for insurance or paying for backup tapes or paying for cloud backup or anything else. But it could save a lot of money. Who knows?
No, and I think that makes sense with the point about having a local backup for cases where the supply chain has basically just been shut down. I mean, you see it to see European Union countries, for example, not even trading with each other at this point,
right?
Or especially early on, that's not happened in a long time.
Yeah, I hope people will think a little bit differently. But we'll see.
Yes, we will. John, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the work you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Grant. Have a great day. Be safe.